Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Friedman-Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Hello, this is Julie Friedman-Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
We're so glad that you're tuning into our podcast because it gives us a chance to share the ideas of experts that are making a difference for parents. Today, we're speaking with Maria Schuba. As a certified personal trainer, Maria has been instructing fitness classes and boot camps for women since 2011. More recently, she became certified as a postnatal fitness specialist and a pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coach. She specializes in safe and effective personal training and fitness for prenatal and postnatal women. Maria is excited to help women heal their postpartum bodies, find balance, gain strength, build confidence, and get back to doing what they love. Welcome, Maria. It's great to be speaking with you today.
Thanks for having me. Well, Maria, we're really excited to talk to you today about a lot of different things. What sort of advice do you give new moms in terms of how they can adjust to their bodies? Because I know I had two children almost 17 and 15 years ago, and there really wasn't a lot of information out there.
I can totally relate, Gail. I have two kids, and they're 8 and 10, and even then there wasn't a lot of information out there. There's so much more education now, and people need to find it. Sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So I'm happy to be here to kind of spread the word and get some more education out there. First of all, getting your body back can wait. After you have a baby, you have a new body. There may be stretch marks, loose skin, stitches, scars, and it's different. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Your body just can't bounce back. It created a baby for 9 months, a tiny little human being, and it's truly an incredible thing. Many moms have these unreal expectations, and they fall into the marketing traps of the get your body back or the 21-day fixes or the whole cleanses and so on. I mean, we could go on for a long time, right?
Yeah.
When the reality is that our bodies have changed, and you may not get back to where you were before pregnancy. But if you do, the way to do it is slow and steady. So things you can do, first of all, unfollow all those social media accounts that make you feel bad about yourself. You know, the ones that have the before and afters and the beautiful women in the gym, and unfollow them and seek those who show a variety of bodies. I can give you one example. A wonderful place to start is to follow a group of women called Healthy Habits, Happy Moms. They have a fantastic community of supportive women with a Facebook group and podcasts, and there's no judgment in that group, and it's a great place to start for a new mom. Another thing you can do is practice gratitude for the body that gave you this baby. Some days are harder than others to do that because we just want to be our old selves, but we have to remember that that tiny human that you just created is pretty awesome, and your body did that for you. Most importantly, we have to have patience. It takes so much time to heal and recover, and the first things we need to focus on after we give birth is resting and rehabbing and retraining.
So, Maria, what do you suggest about getting back into exercise and physical activities, and is it the same for every person?
Absolutely not. It's definitely not the same for everyone. So often we go to our 6-week checkup and we're given the go-ahead to get back to exercise. And that drives me absolutely insane. There should be so much more. For example, if you have knee surgery, you go through months of rest and rehab and physio and all that, but you create a baby and go through hours of labor and may have trauma and scars and tearing, and at 6 weeks, they tell you you're good to go. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Because most women are not just good to go at 6 weeks. Is it the same for everyone? Probably not. Some women may be able to get back at it after 6 weeks, but we have to take into consideration a few things. For example, how active were they before and during pregnancy, whether there was pain or incontinence during pregnancy, how long the delivery lasted, were there forceps, vacuum, episiotomy, tearing. All of these things play into it. Was it a C-section? Was it a vaginal delivery? All these things make a difference in their postnatal recovery. And then we have to look at if there's any pelvic floor dysfunctions. And pelvic floor dysfunctions, I could talk about that for a long time.
I was just going to say, I don't think anyone's talked about that until the last couple of years, really, have they?
Isn't that the truth? You didn't hear about it. You
No.
didn't hear about it at all. But the fact is that our pelvic floor is a muscle, one of the most important muscles in our body. And the fact that it hasn't been talked about for years and years is kind of astonishing, actually. And now finally there's more education about it. But the things we need to look for pelvic floor dysfunctions are the three are diastasis recti, pelvic organ prolapse, and incontinence. And just to give you a bit more info onto what those three are, first of all, diastasis recti. We have muscles down the middle of our abdomen called the rectus abdominis muscles, or we sometimes call them the six-pack muscles. And in between those muscles, we have a connective tissue called the linea alba. And this tissue runs down the middle from your sternum all the way down to your pelvis. And it stretches when we're pregnant. And it allows our abdominal wall to grow as our baby grows. And then the gap in between the muscles is referred to as the diastasis recti. I personally think that this is amazing, that our body grows with our baby. It changes and it makes room for the little tiny human that we're growing inside of us. And the majority of bodies will heal on their own postpartum, but some may need some extra help. And we talk about a diastasis recti. It's when you have a gap of 2 fingers or more in between those muscles. But sometimes the distance of the gap is not necessarily the issue. What we need to be more concerned about is the tension of the tissue in between those muscles, the tension of the linea alba. And it's important to have strong tension in that tissue, and that gives you the better core function. Sometimes the gap never closes, but if the tension is strong, that's okay. So that's the first one, diastasis recti.
And so just before you move on from there, how would somebody know if that was a problem? Is it something that they would just completely be aware of because there's a big gap there, or would they have to feel for it? How would someone know if that was a problem?
There is definitely a way to feel for it, and it's quite simple. There's several YouTube videos out there on how to do it, but basically you take your fingers and you lie down on the floor with your knees up, you lift your head, take an exhale, and you take 3 fingers with your palm facing towards your face, and you put your fingers in, for example, down by your belly button. And you can feel the muscles kind of hugging around your fingers. You'll feel on either side of your hand or either side of your fingers that it's a bit more tight, and then you may feel a gap in between there. Sometimes that feeling of the gap, you can push your fingers all the way down, like it's really squishy, and you can push your fingers far down.
Wow.
Sometimes you can't. It's like a tight trampoline.
Yeah.
You know, the tension in a trampoline. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes there's a gap just by the belly button. Sometimes it's closer down towards the pelvis. Sometimes it's higher up. Or sometimes it's the whole way. So you can do a self-diagnosis with that and see if you have a gap. Also, if you're doing some exercises, for example, a crunch, like a sit-up, and you notice some doming. So in the middle of your stomach area, like a little bit of a tent. And that is the pressure in your core, the intra-abdominal pressure. When you're doing a crunch, that pressure has nowhere to go, so it makes a bit of a tent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's just good to have those visuals and that cue of how to know if that's a problem, for sure.
Yeah, and typically there's other symptoms when you have diastasis. You may have some other pelvic floor dysfunctions because if that coning and doming is happening, there's something wrong with your intra-abdominal pressure, and the intra-abdominal pressure will most likely affect your pelvic floor muscles as well. So you could also have leaking and other back pain or pelvis pain. So it's very important to see a pelvic floor physio, which I will talk about after I explain the other pelvic floor dysfunctions.
Yeah, go on to those.
The second one is pelvic organ prolapse, which is basically when the pelvic organs, such as a bladder or uterus or rectum, they drop down into the pelvis. Symptoms could include feelings of a bulge, heaviness, or pressure in the vaginal canal. And sometimes it's worse at the end of the day, or sometimes it's worse after some physical activity. Sometimes it's a low back pain or pelvic pain, or there's urinary, bowel, or sexual dysfunction. But sometimes there are no symptoms. So pelvic organ prolapse, again, is another one. Always good to go see a pelvic floor physio because they can check you and see what is going on. The third one is incontinence, which is what I suffered from for many years. And again, because there was no education out there, I just thought it was the new normal after being a mom. But it definitely is not. It's very, very common, and the most common are stress and urge incontinence. Stress is when you leak when you're sneezing or coughing or running or doing jumping jacks. And urge incontinence is when you leak because you have to go pee right now and you can't make it to the bathroom. And this is so common, but it is not normal, and it affects over 1 in 3 women in their lifetime.
And really the message that we're getting from so many marketers is it is common and we just have to buy products for it. When in reality we know that there's a way to make it better. And just as full disclosure, I have had those symptoms and I have gone through a program that has helped me to make them better. So I know there's a way to get that pelvic floor back in shape, and I know that that's a lot of what you focus on.
Absolutely. When I was, again, my kids are 10 and 8, and I got the go-ahead at 6 weeks. And for my first delivery, we had forceps, vacuum, tearing, and episiotomy. So it was pretty traumatic. Yeah, it was good times, really good times. But at 6 weeks, my gynecologist said, yeah, you're good to go. So I started running, and I went to mom and baby boot camp, and we were doing sprints and sit-ups because that's what you did back then, 8-10 years ago. That's what people did. But I remember one time in particular, I had peed my pants completely after doing some runnings, and then we were supposed to do assisted pull-ups. And somebody was supposed to hold my legs while I hung on to a piece of equipment in the playground and have their face basically in my pelvic area while I had peed my pants significantly. And I was mortified. I was embarrassed. Yeah. We never ended up doing those pull-ups, and I don't know if it was because the instructor saw what I had done after I had tied my sweater around my waist or if we just ran out of time or whatever. But I remember being completely mortified because I had peed my pants. That's what people do if you don't heal your body correctly after your baby. And I did not heal my body correctly, and I suffered with incontinence for 9 years. Not terrible incontinence, but it was there. If I coughed, if I ran downhill, or I did jumping jacks, I leaked. And even though it wasn't very much, it's still enough that it warranted me going to a pelvic floor physio, and I got some exercises, and then I've since educated myself on all of this because you don't need to live like that.
Well, that's good to know, and I think that's what's perhaps our biggest message to moms out there is you don't have to live like that, and you know that, and you're the expert in this now, and there's somebody actually out there that can help, which is just super cool, because as I said, there was nothing like that out there for me. And it's interesting because when you say, our bodies may never get back, my weight went back, but I could never put on a skirt again, and it's fine. Like, that's the other thing. Like, people need to know that that's fine. I literally couldn't do my skirt up, and I think we have to share more of that. Like, that's fine. Your body changes because you've created this miracle once, twice, whatever, how many times, right? So
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. Are your fitness programs just for new moms, or do you work with moms at all stages? Because I'm kind of thinking, as Julie shared, honestly, there may be other people out there that have had babies a long time ago and need some of this information and / help.
Absolutely. Postpartum is truly forever. I do run classes that are for new moms, but I always say that if you have any sort of pelvic floor dysfunction, or if you're just getting back into exercise after even if your kids are 4 or 6 or 10 and you haven't done much, you still probably haven't regained that strength after you've had your baby. So we focus on breathing and alignment, and we build our strength back up. Because postpartum is forever, and if your kids are 8 and 10 and you're still leaking when you're coughing, you could benefit from the classes for sure.
Or 16 and 18.
I was just going to say that, yeah, because I started when my oldest was 16, and I just never thought that there was any help right up until the time that I found the help, and it worked. And the strength and just comfort that I feel now is so different and so meaningful that I really encourage any moms that are feeling trapped in that situation that there is hope, and Maria is certainly somebody who can help with that.
So one of the founders of all of this was Pelvic Floor Recovery, Julie Weeb. She's a physiotherapist, pelvic floor and women's health physiotherapist in the States. She says if you have incontinence, you're not only leaking urine, but you're also leaking confidence. You're losing confidence and strength, and that's so important. We don't need to live like this. And there's things, fairly easy things that you can do to help your body heal from that.
Absolutely. I'm not an athlete, as many people would know, and I'm very strong now because I have been working slowly and surely. But you don't have to be a runner or someone who's extremely physically fit in order to work these muscles and do what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just so great, Maria, to know that there's people out there like you that I have to admit, I would suggest many people don't know about. So for you taking the time to do this today for us is huge, because now we can share it with everyone that listens to our podcast and all our membership. Speaking with you today has just been so valuable, and thank you for sharing your information. Now, if listeners want to find out more information from you, where is the best place for them to follow you?
Well, I post regularly on Facebook and Instagram, but if you can just check out my website and get all my links there, and it's mariashubafitness.com.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Maria.
To learn more about Parenting Power, check out our website, parentingpower.ca, visit our Facebook page, or follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Parenting Power.